Jaw-dropping jobless figures in the US. Almost 10 million people filing for benefits in just 2 weeks. We'll be crossing to our business editor, Kate Moody, in a moment. A record jump in unemployment in Spain, too. The country recording a sharp rise in COVID-19 deaths, 950 in just 1 day. And the French population should expect a gradual easing of anti-COVID-19 measures, says the Prime Minister, as hundreds more deaths are reported. We'll have more from our French politics editor in this edition. Hello, and thank you for joining us here on France 24. I'm Claire Pride. Now, before we look at individual countries, I'd like to start off by giving you the global COVID-19 figures. And we're getting close to 1 million cases worldwide, as you can see there on your screens. Now, the number of deaths has more than doubled in the last week. Almost every country and territory is affected, and the head of the World Health Organization has said that he's deeply concerned about what he called the rapid escalation and global spread of infection. Now, in the US, COVID-19 cases continue to rise rapidly, and so do the jobless figures. Another 6.7 million Americans applying for benefits last week. That's a new record after 3.3 million filed for unemployment the week before. Until recently, US unemployment was at a nearly 50-year low of 3.5%. Joining me now, our business editor, Kate Moody. Kate, economists were prepared for massive layoffs in the US, but the unemployment data surpassed most estimates.
Yeah, absolutely. We were expecting millions, but perhaps not double the previous week's toll. 6,648,000 people applied for unemployment assistance during the last full week of March. That means in the space of just 2 weeks, 10 million people have found themselves without work. These are all new claims. They're not people who were previously unemployed. Before that, the weekly average was just under 300,000 new claims. The highest single week from before this period was during the global financial was back in the 1980s, and during the global financial crisis, it was just 665,000. That was in March 2009. Now, the job cuts have affected all sectors, particularly the service industry, retailers and restaurants. But we also know that manufacturing, construction, and healthcare companies have also been impacted by these job cuts. Estimates suggesting that the unemployment rate will be rising from its record lows, which, as you said, have been hovering between about 3.5% and 4%. We're expecting it to rise to between 8% and 10% with the most recent figures. More dire predictions suggest the rate could top 20% before this crisis is brought under control. A recession in the United States now seems inevitable. The speed at which millions of people being put out of work is really without precedent.
And so we can expect many more job cuts to come then, Kate?
Yeah, absolutely. Some analysts are saying that these figures of 10 million in 2 weeks could double before we see a downturn. We know that more job cuts are looming. A lot of these recent claims come from people who had been working at small and medium-sized businesses, but major corporations are also mulling possible layoffs. Boeing, among those, that's expected to start offering buyout and early retirement packages to their employees. Those are people who wouldn't necessarily then be applying for unemployment benefits, but to give you an idea that the country's biggest employer is considering job cuts certainly puts things in perspective. United Airlines has also been warning that it may have to cut jobs. The other factor here to keep in mind is that many states haven't even been able to process all the claims that have been made. They've been absolutely overwhelmed, which means that some of the people who already tried to ask for assistance actually won't show up until the weeks to come. The stimulus rescue package that was passed by the U.S. Congress last week does extend these benefits to more people than were previously eligible. The self-employed and people who work in the so-called gig economy, people who work for Uber or Deliveroo, for example, they previously wouldn't have been able to apply for these benefits. They are now eligible under this new legislation. The new measures, though, haven't quite kicked in, so we'll only be adding to the total in the coming weeks. The only bright spot is that economists say that the recovery, when it does come, will be swift, but we certainly aren't there yet.
Sadly not. Thank you very much indeed, Kate. Kate Moody there joining us from home. Now, Spain too has reported record jobless figures, more than 300,000 people signing up for benefits in March, some 900,000 people losing their jobs since Spain went into lockdown almost 3 weeks ago. Now, Spain has reported 950 new deaths, another daily record, more than 10,000 in total. That's the world's second highest death toll after Italy. And when Spaniards lose a loved one, chances are they can't attend the burial. Selena Sykes reports.
Attending a burial via video call. The stark reality in Spain, where strict measures are in place to fight against the spread of the coronavirus. Funeral ceremonies have been banned and no more than 3 people can attend burials, denying many the opportunity to say goodbye to their loved ones. Raquel decided to live stream her grandparents' funeral for other grieving relatives, an experience that would have been unimaginable a few months ago.
Preservar la salud de las familias, evitando nuevos focos de contagio, proteger a los profesionales de las empresas funerarias. Este nuevo virus ha cambiado la forma de relacionarnos, ha cambiado la forma del día a día y por tanto también nos ha cambiado un poco la forma de morir, ¿no? Entonces las familias están entendiendo que las situaciones son extraordinarias.
Funeral services have become overwhelmed. There are now more than 150 burials a day in Madrid, 3 times the average amount. In March, an ice rink in the capital was transformed into a makeshift morgue. Strict confinement measures in Spain are in place until at least the 11th of April and could be extended.
Turning our attention now to Italy, the world's worst affected country when it comes to fatalities. Well, the lockdown there has been extended and the number of daily deaths was down on Wednesday. But Italy is far from being out of the woods, as Brian Quinn reports.
In the European epicenter of the coronavirus crisis, a slowing death toll is bringing little relief. Italy on Wednesday announced 727 deaths from COVID-19 over the previous 24 hours, 110 fewer than the previous day. But new infections were still on the rise, with nearly 4,800 confirmed new cases registered. Officials warned against thinking that the worst might be over.
Non dobbiamo confondere i primi segnali positivi che registriamo in queste ore con un segnale di cessato allarme. I numeri, le proiezioni statistiche fatte dagli esperti ci indicano che siamo sulla strada giusta e che le decisioni drastiche che abbiamo adottato iniziano a dare i primi risultati.
The official total of coronavirus deaths in Italy now stands at over 13,000, but deaths outside of hospitals aren't counted, with many elderly dying at home or in nursing homes untested for the virus. The true figure is likely significantly higher, potentially even double. A nationwide lockdown originally scheduled to expire on Friday has now been extended until at least April 13th, though Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte offered no guarantees that it would ease after that date. Europe's third-largest economy has been at a near standstill since the lockdown began on March 9th. Italy's main business lobby group estimates that each week is costing the country 0.75% of GDP, with the Italian economy minister predicting a steep recession this year. A new economic stimulus package planned for April is expected to be significantly larger than the €25 billion package adopted in March. But in Italy, as elsewhere, comprehensive testing for the virus will likely be the key to a return to some form of normalcy.
Here in France, it's day 17 of the lockdown and the government is studying various ways of winding it down. The Prime Minister saying on Wednesday that it's likely to happen gradually. On the island of Guadeloupe in the Caribbean, there's a curfew now on top of the lockdown. COVID-19 has killed more than 4,000 people in French hospitals. The Paris region is the worst affected. Now here's our French politics editor, Mark Perelman.
For the first time, the Prime Minister of France has talked about the end of the lockdown. Speaking to members of parliament yesterday, he mentioned that it would not be a full end of the lockdown. It might be regional, it might be according to your age, it might be according to a testing mechanism. So while we're still in the midst of the lockdown, at least until the middle of April, the Prime Minister wanted to already tell the French people that life wouldn't go back to normal just in one day, that it would take time, and the government is still figuring out how to deal with this crisis and what comes after this crisis. Clearly, there are economic issues, but the priority is for the government to get its priorities straight. There have been controversy about the lack of masks, the lack of testing, and the government wants to make sure it goes step by step. But I guess the Prime Minister wanted also to send a message of hope. The French are seeing essentially doom and gloom right now. They're seeing daily average of people dying, of people getting infected by the virus. So he wanted to tell them that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but that the light was still far away and that life would not go back to normal just in one day, that it would take time and effort to achieve that.
Now, Germany has reported many more cases of COVID-19 than France, but its fatality rate is a lot lower, only 1.1% of cases resulting in death, according to the Johns Hopkins Institute. One factor, it seems, is the widespread early testing. France 24's Nick Spicer went to investigate.
They've been lining up since 6 a.m. for the test. Across the country, hospitals and clinics are working overtime. 100,000 tests are done every day in Germany, a massive program that helps prepare for the pandemic. It's obviously not the tests that save lives, he says, but very early testing does allow us to detect infections quickly, which enables us to limit the spread of the virus and keep the contamination level low. Massive tests, but also quarantines and early steps to keep people at home, all helped Germany keep its COVID-19 mortality rate at a very low level. The Chancellor herself went into quarantine after treatment by an infected doctor and called on her fellow citizens to stay the course. Stick very closely to the rules, she said, and as much as you can, limit all contact with people outside your home. It's a successful strategy for the German leader. 89% of people here approve of the government's management of the crisis. For now. The confidence she inspires may not last forever, he says, because a lot can happen still. The situation can get much worse very quickly and cause enormous problems. There can be economic, social, and family difficulties. For the time being, Germany has seen fewer deaths than its neighbors, but scientists and the government aren't letting their guard down, because the COVID-19 mortality rate, low as it is here, is still slowly but inevitably getting higher.
Now, how does attending a film festival sound? Pretty good, I'd say, but impossible with lockdowns all over the world, right? Wrong. France 24's film critic Lisa Nesselson explains.
Before over half the planet was ordered to stay at home, France hosted a film festival somewhere, almost every week of the year. Now, you may think that film festivals are glamorous events, and they can be, but really the main attraction is the movies. So, excellent news, no matter where you are located. Through April 27th, you can attend a film festival in France. It's called myfrenchfilmfestival.com, the home edition. And it's a gift absolutely free of charge from UniFrance, the 70-year-old organization that promotes French films beyond French borders. It's comprised of over 50 French short films, and they're all free and subtitled in an array of languages that I think should accommodate just about everybody. Ironically, in recent years, some people have sort of been in training for the current situation by binge watching TV series at home. Personally, I've never binged anything at home except books or chocolate ice cream, but now everybody can pretend to be a professional film critic, watching movies all day and well into the night. I think François Truffaut probably put it best when he said everybody has two professions, their own and film critic. So, fellow film critics. Here's a great place to start. Kiki of Montparnasse by Amélie Hérault. It won the César for Best Animated Short, and it's the life of Kiki, who was a model for many of the artists in the 1920s in Montparnasse. She had a very stormy romance with Man Ray, and you're probably familiar with that photograph he did of her back turned into a cello. It's 14 delightful minutes, and here's a sample to whet your appetite.
Je vais souvent à la Rotonde, j'aime bien. Il y a de belles peintures au mur et puis je suis à la bonne avec les filles des cuisines. Mais là-bas, la grande salle, c'est que pour les grandes dames. Alors du coup, moi, je dois rester au bar.
Mais enfin, Kiki, pourquoi que tu n'essayes pas de t'acheter un chapeau? Comme ça, tu pourrais y aller dans la grande salle.
Eh ben, lui, il doit pas savoir combien ça coûte un chapeau.
Now I know what I'm doing after work. Thanks for watching. Take care.